What is up, everybody? It is me, Anthony. I'm here to talk to you guys about another episode of A Murder at the End of the World. And we have one more episode until everything is over, and everything should be hopefully revealed. And if this episode's any indication of what we're going to get next, I think we're in for some craziness. But before we get into this video, I want to thank you guys for supporting this series. It's been a doozy. You know, we've gotten a lot of comments from people saying that I don't know what I'm talking about, even though this is just a theory video and we're just talking about this show. But yeah, you still got to give me those kind of comments, but I appreciate them because comments are comments and YouTube likes them. And of course, if you want to catch up with all the videos and all the recaps that I've done so far from all the other previous episodes, you can click the eye icon somewhere over there. But without further ado, you know how it's going to be. I'm going to give you guys my recap of the episode, then we're going to talk about my review of the episode, and then we're going to go into theories time. So without further ado, let's get into this recap of episode 6. Crime scene. The episode starts off with Darby trapped in the pool and looking up at the figure on the other side of the pool cover. Quickly, another figure approaches the pool and starts to break the pool cover, attempting to save Darby. We find out later that Lee was the one that called Darby to the pool and David was the one that saved her from drowning. Darby tells Lee that she wants to trust her, but with everything that has happened lately and finding out that Lee has a fake passport and fake wig, it doesn't look like it's going in her favor. Lee starts to tell Darby what is going on with her and starts to tell the story of how things were good between her and Andy in the beginning, but when Zoomer was born, he became obsessed with him and started controlling every aspect about him. After Andy assaulted Lee, she decided to try to go off the grid and take Zoomer with her. But just when Lee thought her plan had worked, Andy was waiting for her and Zoomer at her destination. Lee tells Darby that she had no idea that Bill was Zoomer's father and thought that Andy invited Bill because he wanted to keep his critics close. Bill initially rejected the invitation, but then Andy invited Darby as bait to bring Bill to the hotel. Lee says that when Bill agreed to come, she thought it would be another chance for her and Zoomer to get out. Bill told Lee that she should invite Rohan so he can use his ship and his connections to take Lee and Zoomer away. Lee also reveals that David was in on the plan and that he was the third person who was supposed to meet with Bill the night he died. Darby tells Lee that they should go to Bill's room because she has been looking at this mystery all wrong. Instead of her trying to figure out who the killer was, she should have been trying to understand the victim. The two of them hear a sound outside the door and call out to see if it is David returning. There's no response, and the two of them start to expect the worst. They try to escape the room, but their ring keys are no longer working. Lee and Darby get ready to fight whoever is about to enter the room, but it ends up being Oliver, who says he was sent by David. But I think the big thing for me that kind of made me scratch my head a little bit is this is a crime scene. You know, people are getting murdered left and right, and here comes Oliver, you know, walking. For one thing, that's probably something that, you know, he's not really good at. So if he had to run away from the killer or go away from the killer, don't think he'd be able to get really far. And also he's wearing headphones so he wouldn't hear somebody coming up behind him or hear anything in the distance that might be troublesome. So this is all kind of weird. The three go to Bill's room and Darby starts to look through Bill's things. Darby asks if the doorbell cams have playback memory, but Lee says no. David then pulls out his smart device and Darby brings up the playback footage and shows Oliver and Lee that it looks like someone edited himself out of the footage before Bill died. Oliver hands Darby her book, which is covered in Bill's blood. Darby starts to recount the events that went down in Bill's room from when he was injected and when he eventually dies. Right before he died, Bill grabbed Darby's book and left her a message. Darby starts to read the part of the book where Bill leaves the most blood. We flash back right before Darby and Bill go to the Silver Doe killer's house from the start of the series, and we find out what had happened that day. The killer sees Darby and Bill as the two start to name off the killer's victims, and the killer points his gun at Darby, but Bill steps in front of her right before the killer pulls the trigger, killing himself. The killer's blood splatters all over Bill's face, and he is clearly shocked. Darby tries to calm Bill down and climbs out of the basement and goes over to a neighbor's house to call for help, finally ending the case of the Silver Doe killer. Flashing back to the present, Oliver says that one of the phrases that Darby read caught his attention. In Darby's book, Bill tells her that the killer was a result of faulty programming. Lee says that this must mean that Bill knew his killer and that they were a hacker. Oliver says that it might be Lu Mei because Bill's work was attacking Lu Mei's smart city work. Darby agrees but suggests that Lu Mei is not working alone and asks about Eva and her access to the morphine and the pacemaker machine. Darby says that Lu Mei and Eva could be working with Andy to blame all this on Lee, and that Andy has the biggest motive to kill Bill. Darby tells Lee that they should get Zoomer and her out as soon as possible, but then the group hears a scream from outside, screaming Lee's name. They see a beaten David on the room's door cam. Lee opens the door and sees that Todd is holding David, and Andy confronts Lee and says,
"That's my wife."
And the show ends. So that's my review for episode 6 of A Murder at the End of the World, and it's a quick one. This is one of the shorter episodes of the series so far, and out of all the episodes that we watched so far, and I like every one of them, this one included, I do feel like this one is the weaker of the episodes. Not saying that it's bad or anything like that, but I do feel like since it's on the shorter side, and just the stuff that we got in here is a lot of flashbacks and a lot of wrapping up of the flashback stuff. And you know how I feel about the flashback scenes. I just felt like we already kind of knew what was generally going to happen. Yes, we didn't know that the killer was going to kill himself, but we kind of figured out that Darby and Bill got out of that situation because they were able to go to the hotel. So that was a little bit of like, I don't know how the Silver Doe stuff connects with this present day stuff, maybe just because we got that one line in Darby's book that Bill like circled with his blood. But maybe, just maybe, the last episode will be able to tie everything together with the Silver Doe killer and what is happening in the present with Andy in his hotel and all that stuff. But overall, I think that this episode did a good job of just furthering our character building of Darby and just showing her emotional side and showing, you know, what really makes Darby tick. And I mean, I like Darby as a character. She's making some dumb decisions, but I do like that she pretty much recognizes that she's making dumb decisions and that she's kind of just going off of emotion. But of course, guys, let me know what you think of episode 6 in the comments down below. I'm really interested to see what you guys feel about this. I know some people have been saying that this episode is getting worse and worse after every episode that they watch, so that's very interesting to me because I think it's just getting better and better. So let me know what you think about this episode and the series as a whole. So now it is time to get to everybody's favorite section of the video, and that is the theories time. And I think this episode, with it being a shorter episode, we don't have that much to theorize. A lot of the stuff have been pretty much like given to us, like we pretty much know that Andy is an asshole, but I think some people kind of already got that he was doing something, you know, that he was either abusing Lee or Zoomer or both, and we kind of got confirmation with that in this episode, if you believe what Lee is saying. Now, I just feel like, I don't know if it's just the actress, the way that she's portraying Lee, but just sometimes when she says things to Darby or just anybody in general, it feels like it's kind of like she's just playing with their emotions or just playing with the situation, and I don't entirely believe her. I don't know if that's just the way that she does the acting or just the way that she looks. She looks like a deceitful person, but I'm just still like side-eyeing Lee just a little bit. Maybe her story isn't fully the full truth, but for sure we know that Andy is like a total like crazy nut job. We can tell that, but I still don't think that he is the killer or one of the killers. I know it's weird to say, but it just doesn't make sense to me, at least. But for me, it just really doesn't make sense that Andy would be the killer because he's just killing people very, very stupidly. It's out in the open, it's very, you know, in your face, and he's not really hiding it if he is the killer from anybody. I think he would be a little bit smarter than that to, you know, cover his tracks, hide things. Another reason why I don't think Andy is the killer is because there was a couple episodes ago that he tried to get Darby out of this situation and everybody out of this situation. But then Rohan died, and then he put everybody underground for safety. So to me, that doesn't make any sense why he would go through the whole facade of trying to kick Darby out and then see that somebody died and then try to hide everybody and then kill some more people. It's really weird. It doesn't make any sense to me. And if the show does go in that direction, we're going to have a lot to talk about. But as far as who I think is the killer, it is narrowed down to 3 people, and that is Todd, Eva, and Oliver. Oliver being the star suspect for me because the dude just is weird. he rubs me the wrong way. I mean, there's just a little bit of inconsistencies that he got. I want to go back to the headphone thing that I talked about. If there's a killer roaming around, why are you rocking some headphones, man, where you can't hear anything coming up behind you or anything? And during the whole time when they were in Bill's room, Oliver was like really antsy and he kind of wanted like everybody to leave. He's like, why are we here? We shouldn't be here. Let's get out of here. Kind of like he didn't want Darby and Lee to figure things out. But then again, he was the one that noticed that Darby's book was in Bill's room and that it was covered in blood, and that's where they found the clue that Bill left. I don't know, this show is crazy. You know, it could be a million ideas of things. I know there's a lot of theories out there saying that is the AI. It's looking more and more towards that. I mean, there was that line that, you know, Bill said faulty programming, so that may be an indication of the AI. I mean, I need a little bit more information, a little bit more, you know, data, if you will, for me to make that conclusion. But, you know, we only got one episode left, like I keep on saying, so maybe they can cram all that into one episode. I just hope that they don't rush it and they don't just, you know, throw out some weird excuse of why the killer is the killer and who the killer is. I just really hope they do a good job with this finale. But of course, guys, the most important thing that I want to know is, what do you think? Who do you think is the killer after this 6th episode? Do you think it's Lee? Do you still think it's Lee? Do you think it's Andy all along? Do you think that the show's gonna go that really lame route of making it Andy this whole time? Really hope they don't do that. Or do you think it's somebody else? Let me know in the comments down below. But as always, guys, like the video if you like it, dislike it if you don't. Either way, it helps the channel a lot. And as always, guys, keep watching.